Hello! Welcome to the mid-year freakout tag of 2025. I have never done this tag before, I don't believe. Actually, let me check that. I have. 4 years ago I did this tag. Disregard. But regardless, I'm very excited about doing this video today. I've been in a bit of a reading slump lately, I won't lie. And I'm hoping that this video kind of reinvigorates me and gets me amped to read again. So, I'm very excited. All right, let's get started. The origin of this tag, I think, has been lost to the ages. It's been around a long time. I remember being like 13 watching these videos. So I'll see if I can dig up who wrote this tag, but if I can't find it, just know, if you're out there, I see you, I recognize you. Thank you for your work for the booktube community. But the first question is the best book you've read so far this year. The best book I read so far this year is actually an arc. It is The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy by Brigitte Knightley. This, if you don't know, was adapted from a Hermione fanfic. And the original fanfic was called hold on, let me think, what is it? Draco Malfoy and the Mortifying Ordeal of Being in Love. Which, if you haven't read, I know that for many people reading even fanfic of J.K. Rowling's work is icky. And that's something that I've been moving through a little bit. I don't know how I'm feeling about it. There are several Hermione fics coming out in TradPub this year, and I'll be reading all of them. But let me know down below what your thoughts on it are. I'm still deciding what my opinions are. So this is the first in a slow burn enemies to lovers romantasy duology featuring a scholarly healer and a gentleman assassin, although I would put gentleman in quotes. And it is an exquisite fantasy world that's kind of based off of like middle to old English like language and like the world. So it's super interesting. I found this book so strikingly intellectual. I really think that Brigitte Knightley is a genius. I think her mind is the most beautiful place on earth, and I'd love to just live in there because her vocabulary, the way she crafts things, everything about her is so, if I could write like that, I'd do nothing else. I would sit and write all day. So, depending on how you feel about Hermione fic, if you are coming from the Hermione background, then it doesn't read as Hermione. It's a totally new thing. It's not something that she's done before. Like, you see the chords of similarity, but they're not like super intense. Which is another reason why I'm totally okay with reading this work and like supporting this work. But yeah, if you haven't got that on your TBR, it comes out July 8th, so super soon. I pre-ordered my copy like last year, so even though I got an ARC for it and I have it on my Kindle, I will be putting it on my little Harry Potter shelf up here, which I'm very excited about. So yeah. Best sequel you've read so far in 2025? Girl, you know it's gotta be Sunrise on the Reaping. This book was a moment, like such a moment in time, I feel like. And I feel like there are so many times in book talk where everyone's reading the same thing at the same time, and I'm never in those moments because I didn't like the fairy books, like the Sarah J. Maas, like ACOTAR books. I read the first one and I was like, okay, I couldn't finish the second one. So I haven't really experienced those like collective book talk moments, except for maybe actually no, I didn't even read Fourth Wing at the right time. But this one I read with everyone else reading it. I had to stay off the internet. I read it in 2 sittings. Suzanne does something that for our political moment is so important. There are so many things in this text that make me think of America today and the world that we live in. And I just, oh my God, the characters she makes are so full, like rich and full of depth, and the way that she crafts like a world and like a socioeconomic system and an arena, they're all so magical, and it's so, I get emo thinking about this book. Like, I'm literally tearing up right now. So if you ever read the Hunger Games books and you've been like, do I really need another one? You do need another one, and it's this one. So, Sunrise on the Reaping, babe. New releases you want to read? If there aren't a million of these, but I will stick to a few. I want to read Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I just read Book Lovers this year, and no, ate it up. Delicious. So and my friend read it and she recommended it, so she gave it 5 stars. So I'm very excited to give that a read this year. Of course, Problematic Summer Romance by Ali Hazelwood. I haven't read the Not in Love. I can't remember what the name of it was. It came prior to this, and it's like the same universe. But I love Ali Hazelwood. I love everything she does. And so good. Finally, Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is a sapphic, like inspired by Sally Ride-esque new novel from Taylor Jenkins Reid. Actually, let me pull up the description. I feel like I haven't heard this talked about enough. An epic new novel set against the backdrop of the 1980s space shuttle program about the extraordinary lengths we go to live and love beyond our limits. I'm so excited. Goodreads giveaway? Say less. Say less. So those are the books that I want to read that are already released. The books that have not been released yet, so are most anticipated to still be released in 2025. I'm currently working on arcs for both of these, but Ladies in Hating by Alexandra Vasti, cannot recommend more. It comes out in September, and it is about 2 sapphic gothic novelists who are like in a haunted like mansion in the 1800s, and the sweet gay love is, and like the yearning is everything to me, and especially during Pride Month, we gotta do it. Additionally, I have not started Catabasis or Catabasis. I can't remember which way you say it, but by R.F. Kuang. You can't see it, but up there on my favorite shelf is Babel. I love R.F. Kuang. I love everything she does, so I'm very excited about Catabasis. We're going with that one. If you haven't heard about the new R.F. Kuang book, it is about 2 rival academics who go down the like circles of hell to get their academic advisor out of hell because they need recommendation letters. So anybody who's been in academia, like, I've heard it's a very like great for that. But I also think it's going to be like an excellent book because I love everything she does. I have heard one bad review, so I'm a little anxious, but I think it'll be fine. Because I again adore R.F. Kuang, and she's like, she's another one where I'm like, how are you popping out all these books when you're already like, you're doing your like 2nd PhD or some shit? So couldn't be me. The time management skills are crazy. Biggest disappointment of 2025. I just DNF'd Eligible by Curtis Sittenfeld. This is a modern retelling of Pride and Prejudice set in Cincinnati, Ohio in the 2010s. And to be frank, some of the writing just felt mean-spirited. There was a fat joke made about Charlotte Lucas, and I was just like, I can't do that. I can't be dealing with that. And I have to say the characters, like, they all felt very vapid, and I truly do know that the Bennets are a very silly, goofy family. Like, they're not serious people. And in some ways, I do feel like it's an accurate modern representation because, let me read you this description, hold on. Maybe I'll influence you to read it, even though I didn't. So, Liz is a magazine writer in her late 30s who, like her yoga instructor older sister Jane, lives in New York City. Their father has a health scare and they return to their childhood home in Cincinnati to help and discover that the sprawling Tudor they grew up in is crumbling and the family is in disarray. Youngest sisters Kitty and Lydia are too busy with their CrossFit workouts and paleo diets to get jobs. Mary, the middle sister, is earning her third online master's degree and barely leaves her room, except for those mysterious Tuesday night outings she won't discuss. And Miss Bennet has one thing on her mind: how to marry off her daughters, especially as Jane's 40th birthday fast approaches. Enter Chip Bingley, a handsome new in town doctor who recently appeared on the Juggernaut reality TV dating show Eligible. At the 4th of July barbecue, Chip takes an immediate interest in Jane, but Chip's friend, neurosurgeon Fitzwilliam Darcy, reveals himself to be Liz to be much less charming, and yet first impressions can be deceiving. There was like a gay joke made about Mary, and I don't know, it just felt like needlessly cruel. I know this has gotten stupendous reviews, and maybe I'm just being overly sensitive. It's not beyond me to be that. But I just can't say that it's something that I want to spend my time reading, especially as someone who loves Jane Austen so much. So, yeah. Sorry to Curtis Sittenfeld. Biggest surprise of 2025, The Mountains Sing by Nguyen Phan K. Mai. This is a intergenerational story about life in Vietnam, and it during like multiple wars. And I, as someone who grew up in an American public education system, didn't know really anything about Vietnam, like very little to nothing. And learning about this was staggering. It was emotional. The family relationships were so deep and intense and like genuinely moving, where I was like nearly brought to tears time after time. And if you haven't read it and you feel like you're ready, you're prepared emotionally for something that's gonna rip your heart out, I would give The Mountains Sing a read. And I'm not like super going into any of these books because I've already talked about most of these in my quarter 1 wrap-up video, but I'll go a little more into The Mountains Sing. The Mountains Sing tells an enveloping multi-generational tale of the Tran family set against the backdrop of the Vietnam War. Tran Due Lan is born in 1920 and forced to flee her family farm with her 6 children during the land reform as the communist government rose in the north. Years later in Hanoi, her young granddaughter Huang comes of age as her parents and uncles head off down the Ho Chi Minh Trail to fight in a conflict that tore apart not just her beloved country, but also her family. So good. Some of the best historical fiction I've read. New favorite author. Not really new, because I did read Draco Malfoy and the Mortifying Ordeal of Being in Love a few years ago, but Brigitte Knightley. I can't wait for the sequel to, I know that it hasn't even come out yet, and I'm already like this about the sequel, but you'll see why when you read it, which you will read it. I see you, and you will read it. New fictional crush of 2025. I have a couple for this one. Lenore Dove, Baby. Suzanne Collins really went off with her. Or Lucas Blankfist from Deep End, or Wesley Kohler from Twice Shy. And my new favorite character to follow on from that one is Mabel Parrish. This isn't really a new favorite character because I reread this one and she has been a favorite character of mine. But Twice Shy is by Sarah Hogel, is so good. It's for the dreamers out there. It's for the quiet, for the tender-hearted. I have literal chills thinking about it. Hold on, let me tell you about it. Mabel Parrish has always been a dreamer and a hopeless romantic, but living in her own world has long been preferable to dealing with the disappointments of real life. So when Mabel inherits a charming house in the Smokies from her great aunt Violet, she seizes the opportunity to make a fresh start. Yet when she arrives, it seems her troubles have only just begun. Not only is the house falling apart around her, but she isn't the only inheritor. She has to share everything with Wesley Kohler, the groundskeeper who's as grouchy as he is gorgeous. And it turns out he has a very different vision for the property's future. Convincing the taciturn Wesley to stop avoiding her and compromise is a task more formidable than the other dying wishes Great Aunt Violet left behind. But when Mabel uncovers something unexpectedly sweet beneath Wesley's scowls, I'm gagged. And as the two slowly begin to let their guard down, they might learn that sometimes the smallest steps outside one's comfort zone can lead to the greatest rewards. Oh my gosh. It's for my rom-com readers. If you're a rom-com reader, Sarah Hochul really is excellent. And Twice Shy especially, there is a component of being like wanting to be alone with your own thoughts and like the world that you live in when you're by yourself. And it makes me to go on, to skip ahead. A book that made you happy in 2025, Twice Shy by Sarah Hochul. Yes, it's a reread, but it stands up. And Mabel Parrish from Twice Shy is just someone that I relate to on such a deep level. I adore her. So, yeah. A book that made you cry, Sunrise on the Reaping Baby. She's so good and so devastating. The most beautiful book you bought in 2025. I'm very proud to say I've only bought 2 books this year, Dead Weight by Emmeline Clein and Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. Everything else I've read through my library or have gotten as ARCs. So I'm really proud of that fact. And to be honest, neither of these covers are particularly, I just hit myself in the face. None of these are particularly beautiful, but the content inside is excellent. So that's all that really matters. What do you want to read before 2025 ends? Dead Weight by Emmeline Clein. I talked about this in my Q1 video, but I started and got through maybe half of this on Libby, and then my Libby hold expired. My Libby loan expired, and the library didn't renew the licensing for it, which I totally understand. And I'm probably going to read this on vacation, which heavy read for vacation. If you don't know what Dead Weight is about, it's a series of essays and / memoir about eating disorder culture in the modern day and the internet era. But I'm super excited to read this. And I'm finally going to read One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston, if it's the last thing I do. Finally, my favorite question on this tag, my favorite community members, Mixed Library, Katie Whitruck, and Diaries of Creativity, I all discovered this year, and I have found them to be so refreshing. I love their editing styles, I love the content that they do, and I think that they're wonderful women. So you should give them all a subscribe. Peace and love. So that was my mid-year freakout tag. Happy June, happy Pride Month. We love, and I love you all very much. I hope you've been having a great first half of your year, and I hope that the rest of the year is just as wonderful. So comment, subscribe, and I'll see you very soon. Bye!